The city of Berlin is a world leader in many things, but what it excels at most, it seems, is fiasco. You don't have to dig very far to find some source of embarrassment, but let's talk about the ongoing saga that is the 2021 elections. Yes, that's right, that story is still not over, and there's even the possibility of fresh embarrassment on the horizon. That's because in Berlin the elections were declared invalid and have to be repeated on the 12th of February. And to be sure, we are not talking about unsubstantiated claims of dead people voting or servers being hacked or anything of that nature. We are talking about actual general incompetence that led to some polling stations running out of ballot papers. The date was the 26th of September 2021, when all of Germany was electing a new Bundestag. In Berlin, as is standard practice, some other local ballots were also scheduled for the same date. So, each voter received up to 5 different ballot papers. Now, each polling station in Berlin required around 700 sets of ballot papers. 700 sets of ballot papers came to about 22 kilograms. Now, apparently this was a bit too much for some election officials to carry all at once, and so the plan was to just take as many as they could carry into the polling station and send somebody out for more as and when required. There was just one small problem with this idea. The Berlin Marathon was on the same date, and so several important roads were closed, and this meant that 311 polling stations in Berlin experienced severe delays, and 102 of them had to temporarily suspend operations entirely. In Germany, polling stations are supposed to close at 6 p.m, but some of the affected stations in Berlin, just to make sure that as many people as possible actually had the opportunity to vote, remained open until as late as 9:30. And this meant that a lot of people were voting after having seen the first results and projections coming in, which meant that they had the opportunity to change their minds about who to vote for tactical reasons, something that a modern representative democracy tries very hard to avoid. So with all of these reported problems, a committee had to investigate and immediately hit upon another problem. Because election officials were so busy just trying to get ballot papers, they didn't apparently have time to record all of the problems they were having in the official protocols, which meant that the official record did not match eyewitness accounts, and that just slowed down the whole process of trying to assess how serious the problem was. With the chaos making national and even international headlines, the Berlin state returning officer resigned, leaving her deputy to clean up the mess. And she had a very public disagreement with the federal returning officer. The deputy state returning officer agreed that problems had occurred, but on the basis that voter turnout was roughly similar to what it had been in previous elections, argued that it hadn't actually affected the outcome. The federal returning officer, on the other hand, called the whole thing a systemic failure and bitterly asked what more had to happen for the ballots to be ruled invalid. So, to cut a long story short, Berlin has to redo the elections on the 12th of February. Okay, wait, stop, just a moment, I'm sorry, I just have to interrupt myself for a minute because while I was editing this video, I suddenly realized that I'd missed out a very crucial piece of information. It's not all of the elections that are being repeated in Berlin on the 12th of February, just the local Berlin elections. Whether or not the federal elections will also have to be repeated, and if so, when, apparently has not yet been decided. These things take a stupidly long time. Anyway, back to the video. And already the first 2 problems have appeared, both concerning mail-in ballots. The first problem was that ballot papers sent to the residents of the borough of Neukölln included the name of a candidate who has since moved out of Berlin and so is no longer eligible for election. So new ballot papers have had to be printed and sent out, and those who have already sent in their ballots have been told that if they want to, they can vote again and their original votes will simply be discounted. What could possibly go wrong with that? And in the midst of all this, German postal workers have started a series of warning strikes. Apparently, Deutsche Post is making some very impressive profits at the moment, and yet somehow doesn't have enough money to increase wages in line with inflation. This is not affecting the delivery of ballot papers to voters, at least not within Berlin, because Berlin doesn't use Deutsche Post for that. It uses an independent private company. But Deutsche Post does have to deliver completed ballot papers to the electoral offices, and it's likely that some of them will be delayed and not arrive until after the deadline. Now, at this point, I just know that some of you are furiously writing in the comments to ask why we don't just let people vote online. Well, given that Berlin can't even be relied upon to get cars full of paper ballots to where they are needed, do you really think we can trust them with that kind of technology? Besides, there are many problems associated with this idea. For the curious, I've put links in the description to 2 videos by Tom Scott on this very subject. Meanwhile, to the long-suffering voters of Berlin, let me just say this. National headlines, the residents of the very impressive why we don't just let people general incompetence that led to some things